We're designed to belong, to be in the tribes, not for open communication. But I don't think that we have enough awareness around why we struggle with those conversations. So this is the moment when you start to say things we don't even mean or start to become defensive, because this part, which is responsible for us actually talking rationally, is in a way going offline. But politics could play a huge role in how feedback is delivered or how feedback is approached as well. The main thing is to open this conversation and to ask them what would serve them. Just it's so important to understand that we are all so different and there are not even two brain alike, because the way I see world is not the way you see it.
Welcome everyone, Chris Burstein here, best known as Los Cabra, and welcome to another episode of Backstage Breakdown. Today we have a really interesting interviewee in front of me, and she's gonna be talking about feedback culture. Kristina, welcome.
Very much happy to be here.
My pleasure. For the ones that don't know, we're a part of a running team.
Yeah.
And then we start talking in those Saturday morning runs, and then she started telling me, this is super interesting. For the people that they don't know what you do, can you explain us in a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. So I do work with feedback. I say that I'm a feedback expert, and they're like, what does it mean? And I'm like, I talk about feedback cultures, about the skill of feedback, but actually I'm looking into deeper levels of feedback, because so many people are talking about the technicality, but I don't think that we have enough awareness around why we struggle with those conversations. And what is happening in this moment, both for feedback giver and receiver. And even though we have all those structures and we talk that we need to have feedback, we know the benefits of it, but we really are not designed for it. So I think this lack of awareness that we're not designed to have those conversations is something that is obstructing us for having more of it. And the quality of the feedback conversations is also suffering from it. So I create this awareness, or I bring this awareness so we can actually have this foundation, understand that what is happening with us during those conversations. So then we can actually have the tools, the right tools to have those conversations that are not triggering, but actually building things forward.
Okay, so let's go one by one, because here, this is a universe.
Yes.
First, why is it so hard for people to say something not nice?
Yeah. So actually it goes back to us living in the tribes and really aiming or needing to have the harmony in the tribes, because we're actually designed to have harmony, to maintain the harmony. So it means that when we have the harmony, we also are feeling safe. We know that we belong in the group when we are not causing conflict, for example, when I give the feedback. So we are creating this safety. And we know that when I maintain the harmony, I also have access to resources such as food. I'm protected from the predators. So no lion is eating me outside the tribe, because they're protecting me, I belong. And also then I have for mating and whatnot. But we are designed for safety. We're designed for harmony. We're designed to belong, to be in the tribes, not for open communication. And this narrative is still around our head. And then the whole neuroscience comes in as well, which explains why it's so hard to be in those moments. But we're not designed to have those conversations in the first place.
Okay, but you said that we're being designed for this shelter, the peace and harmony.
Yeah.
Are we, or that is our defense mechanism, as you said, for safety, for just still being alive?
Yeah, this is exactly what I'm meaning, that this safety is giving us confirmation that I'm going to be not eaten by the predators. I will have access as well for the food. I do belong. And then also then also I will have the mates and stuff like this. So it's just when we ask people to have open communications, to go ahead, give feedback, even if it's harsh feedback, not like criticism that actually helps someone to grow, is threatening the harmony, because we might cause a conflict, which is also not good for the feedback giver. And then also there's the other part of feedback receiver. That's why when I train companies or like train people, I do talk a lot about how to receive feedback, because there's so much science behind it, and there's so many things happening behind it that we are not aware of what is happening with us in the moment, and why it's so hard to be in those moments as well.
Let's go one step before that, because what happens in our brains when we snap? Because it is, we act irrational. We say things that we don't want to say. So what happened? Why that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is fascinating part, and I love neuroscience, and I read a lot about this, and it's just, I don't know, we do so many things against our brain. It's fascinating. But what is happening is, because we have our emotional brain, which sits here, we have all this amygdala. You probably heard fight, flight, freeze mode. There is also faint. So we have our emotional brain, and there is our rational brain, which is just right here. It's our prefrontal cortex or prefrontal lobe, and this is where all the rational thing is happening, where is creativity is happening, decision making, problem solving, and so much more. So we have this part in this brain part, this part here, right? So basically what happens when we go into like in a difficult conversation, or someone is giving us a harsh feedback, we perceive it as a threat, linking back that it's not safe. It threatens our safety. And then our emotional brain, like this fight, flight, freeze, lights up, it's activated, and it takes resources from our part of the brain which is responsible for rational thinking, for really like being present and talking from very clear standpoint. So this is the moment when you start to say things we don't even mean, or start to become defensive, because this part which is responsible for us actually talking rationally is in a way going offline. Or like it depends, of course, of the responses that you have, but it is really losing the resources needed for us to be present and to think through logically in a way. So then since we are in this emotional brain and it's lit up, we are just focused on survival by this stance. We say things we don't mean, or we start to blame, or we leave the room, or we dismiss something. So yeah, it's just because this part of the brain and is taking over, and it's not designed for structured conversations. It's designed for survival.
You know that it's interesting that you mentioned this, because, I have a baby, and something that we do when he has a tantrum or he's crying in our adult mind, irrational, we say, what is that color? And there's a different part of the brain, at least for what I read, activates, and that is like, oh, it's blue. And then he stopped that. So is that defense mechanism that is triggering the tantrum, but the logic side is going on the other direction. And that's when you can take him out of that. Maybe we can bring this correlation to adults, because we have a discussion, not a fight. And then probably we say things that we don't want or we don't feel.
Yeah.
How can we train our brains for not to snap in such an aggressive way when we hear something that hurt us?
Mm-hmm. The training part is about, I would say, creating your toolbox that works for you, how to activate or bring back resources to your thinking brain. So there are so many techniques around how to calm down in a way, because this is the moment we need to regulate nervous system before responding.
Please, I need them all.
You need them all.
Tell me.
So even starting from very simple thing as relaxing your jaw or shoulders, just showing your body that you are safe. Because when we feel unsafe, we clinch, we become stiff, right? So relaxing your jaw and your shoulders. Very often we have this. I also suggest people, if they go to a difficult conversation, to even have a glass of water with them, because then you can take a mindful zip of water, meaning that we always feel that we need to respond everything instantly, right? But you can have a breathing, because the breathing, deep breath is calming your parasympathetic nervous system, is helping out for you to calm down. So meanwhile, when you have a glass of water, you can actually think of the sensations that you feel, to activate, to bring back your senses to prefrontal lobe, to actually go out of this fight and flight mode, but just really activate different senses, as you probably are doing with your child. You look somewhere else, right? I will not talk about children brain, because it's different different subject, and they're still developing. But those simple things can help. I think there's a very powerful tool is reappraisal, meaning that reminding you of the intentions of the other person. So instead of thinking that it is not safe, it's it defines me, who I am fundamentally, and starting to create all those narratives in your head that makes you feel even more unsafe in the situation. Just saying Chris is giving to me because he wants better for me. Reappraising the moment. It's rephrasing basically what you're hearing from a stand that the person is wishing me well, or aiming for me to do things better. So this is a technique, very a simple but very, very powerful.
I can understand that on a love situation with your family, with someone that you care about, but how can you translate that into an office? Because I'm not so sure if so many employees will think that what my colleague wants for me is in my best interest.
Well, then we need to look overall, take a step back and see and look into the habits of the company or for the team, right? Why would you think that your peer would not have the best interest for you? So maybe there are underlying other problems that we need to, or challenge that we need to look into and address before. So I actually know that the intentions that you are coming in the conversation are good. So, and it's very also interesting thing from a brain that our amygdala is recording our past bad experiences. So if you had a horrible, and labels them, they are not safe. For example, see something happening, you had a horrible feedback conversation, it was horrible, right? And then it labels as very not safe, and then very not safe experience, because it also remembers how you felt. And then next time when you have a conversation, when someone is inviting you into the conversation, the brain is already saying this is going to be unsafe for you, and I'm activating my emotional brain, and I'm actually taking some resources from your rational brain, because you are constantly already afraid of it, because it's a threat for your safety from the brain standpoint. Yeah.
Some month ago, I remember we had a conversation, and you told me how important it was just to have a verbal contract or an agreement between the team on how we're going to treat each other. Mm-hmm. How do you do something like that in the companies?
I love that. I still stand by my words. Yes. And I even created on my website, you can download it as well. It's called, for example, we can have team feedback canvas. You can actually download it for free on my website as well, where you are just together, you get people together and say, okay, what kind of behaviors have place in our team regarding feedback? What doesn't have? Then you talk about the preferences in receiving feedback, because we are very often, not always, operate from this standard, from this view that everyone is the same. But just it's so important to understand that we are all so different, and there are not even two brain alike, because the way I see world is not the way you see it. And it depends on our upbringing, about our childhood, about education, people we met, places we visited, books we read, everything. Your brain is always changing and seeing according to the environment you're in. So we are all seeing things differently, and what works for me not necessarily work for you. So actually approaching from this point feedback as well, asking so Chris, what is the way you would like to receive feedback? Would you like for me also to bring some praises along the way? Or do you want for me to be straightforward? Because I have been in the companies facilitating workshops where there were people from all over the world, like literally you can open this and you can see like different, and you would see so many different preferences. And to some cultures, for example, German way of giving feedback was really threatening and sending them instantly into this unsafe zone. And for some, it was like, okay, we're just doing it this way. So having this canvas and talking about how you like to receive feedback, what behaviors we tolerate and we don't tolerate regarding feedback. What would be the best way to respond to feedback? You can also talk about it. Are we giving a rule? I don't know. Let's come back to like 24 hours sleeping on the feedback rule so I can think about it and come back to you. So what would be the norms for us to operate? And when you talk together about those norms, you can also hold each other accountable. Because if you all have been in the same conversation and you have created this canvas, you can make it as an agreement between yourself and then hold each other accountable when someone is like sitting on their feedback, or someone is not living by the things you agreed upon. So I think that could work both ways.
On the theory, let's say we agree.
Yeah.
This is the way that we're to communicate to each other.
Yeah.
This is how we're going to give feedback, how we're going to receive feedback. But then there's a discussion. And all that really happens? People really follow that code of conduct, or everything derail?
It depends on how serious the team is treating it. And whenever we create this kind of document, we also say make it as a living document to come back to it and see, is it working or is it not? Then you can, for example, when people are asking, so how can I build a feedback culture? And I'm giving different tools. One of the tools could be like, I don't know, doing regular retrospectives with the team about not only about the projects that they accomplished together, but also on the ways of working. And this could be a place where they talk about, okay, did we follow what we agreed upon regarding feedback and stuff like this? So it's always important to understand why you're doing it. Why do you need to create this agreement? What it will help us, how it will help us working together, and then discuss it together, how it's going to look like, and then holding each other accountable.
When you said you're working with companies, what kind of companies look for your service? Like traditional companies, or more like startups that they believe that this, let's say, soft skill, that is not, it can improve productivity?
Yeah. I will use the moment. I will use the moment because each time I hear a soft skill term, and it's not you, and it's not you.
I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. But I really would love for us to move from soft to behavioral skill, because there's nothing soft about it. It just comes from very old times when they needed to hard skill and soft skill. But each time I hear soft, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're working on so many things that is just so hard for us. Is it really that soft? So like connotation is different. Regarding the companies, so right now I get different requests. Some companies just very small startups that they want to talk together as we were talking, like, and we were creating the team feedback cultures. We were also looking into how diverse the company is, as well as what challenges they could have regarding giving and receiving feedback. And then I have also people who are bringing me to, for example, train the whole leadership team. They want for the equipped team to know what is happening with feedback conversations, why it's so hard to have them, as well as give them the tools. And I always give brain-friendly feedback tools, as they call it. And then some teams also just saying like, okay, we have team budget. We really want to work together. And once again, this is again a moment where we're looking into like the norms and agreements, because when you collectively go through some experience, the level of commitment is also a bit different.
I can imagine that in really traditional companies, they don't see this as something so important. And it's something that I see on the Friction department on my project, that is like, we've been doing this forever, and this is okay. When you start seeing the cracks in the relationship, it's not that okay. But older or traditional companies, they think it is. How, if there's a way, how can you change that mentality and say like, this is important?
We always go back to why, explaining why it is important to have this conversation. What does it really mean? My usual clients are not the big corporates that are like for many, many years, like 20 years established, and they have 50,000 people. It's more of actually companies who already know about feedback and they understand the importance of it. But I know that the big companies are also looking into feedback, that's for sure. Probably it's more systemized, but then to change the whole approach to it could be the whole new change management and leadership sharing example, talking about why that is important. And they do have it. But to be honest, I am not working with that huge companies. So it's, of course, we need to define what size of the company we're talking about, not like IBM, Microsoft or something.
There's something that I see, for at least on the creative teams, that you know that between 15 to 20% of the world is neurodivergent. That is ADHD, Asperger, autism, dyslexia, spectrum. But on the creative side, music, arts, advertisement, is between 50 to 60%. And I believe that we're going to use the same recipes for normal corporations, but for creative teams, that our sensitivity is different. And that's where I think that feedback comes in. Do you have experience with neurodivergent people on the teams that you coach? Or at least that they express that they are?
I mainly talk about neurotypical brain, I would say. So I would not go there because it's not my area of expertise. I know that places are being designed to help neurodivergent people as well to work better. But I think it's about really getting curious on how can we enable you to do your best work and what kind of conditions you need and how can we create this environment for you as well. And it's not necessarily about physical environment, but also working environments. Are we talking about different working hours or some focus time? But the main thing is to open this conversation and to ask them what would serve them, because if their way of working is different, we can also create an environment for them that supports that.
And how do you feel that, for example, now there's, in the last couple of years, a big development of what is called the Flinta culture, that is more about this diversity, more into sexual aspects. And it's only now that people start seeing neurodivergence as that we're different or that our brains work in a different way. But the conditions in a work environment, as you said, there's not there yet. For example, to work at different hours, or the level of focus like someone with ADHD can have, and the level of creativity that he can have on the results, it's exponentially. It's way bigger than in, let's say, on the normal mind. What do you think that what it can be a change that it might happen? You said, okay, in a mental state, or what can we do in corporations for this to happen, to feel a bit more comfortable working?
Get experts. I'm not an expert there, so I'm not. I don't like to talk about the things I'm not an expert on. And and I think that there are many great consultants. I know personally people who are doing that, and they're consulting companies to build neurodivergent cultures. So they probably have an amazing toolbox that they can use it as well, and just enable other people to really have to work their best, but also have the conditions and support and awareness from others, because maybe there is also a lack of awareness around different needs. Because once again, we always operate from this understanding that everyone's alike us, but awareness of differences. I think it's also a good conversation to start. But then bring the consultants who know their
Good.
things.
In a different interview, we were just talking about the micropolitics that happen inside the teams, inside the groups, and how different roles they perceive themselves and they act in a corporation. How does links with feedback? How is the feedback culture between someone that has a role with a bigger hierarchy with the employees and vice versa? And what are the challenges that you find? And what are the possible solutions that you can bring?
I think it's still boils down to open communication and honest communication. Some companies are hard to change, and the politics are just part of the culture that they are in. But politics could play a huge role in how feedback is delivered or how feedback is approached as well, in a way that to whom you can give feedback and stuff like this. And another thing, interesting part of the brain, or like knowledge of the brain, that it always scans environment and and sees is it safe or not, and also registers what kind of behaviors are rewarded and punished. So if I see some behaviors that, like speaking up or giving a feedback to a senior than I am, is being dismissed, and then have questions. Now I lost the words. Then consequences, let's say this way. Then no one will go and talk openly as well. So politics will just, I don't know, makes everything so much more harder. Some things you can change, some things you can't. It's super hard to navigate this because, once again, we are creatures that need safety, and we always scan what is happening around us, so we can adjust also our behaviors so we are safe in the group as well. But yes, good luck. You have a lot of politics, you have strong hierarchies, and it by default for the company, it's okay to have this, and there is no this internal need for change or for addressing this thing. It's not likely that I could come and help, for example.
It's a big thing, because I think that in certain structures, when you have a boss with a really big presence, someone that takes a lot of space in the room, it's hard to give any level of feedback when that person has so much power, or politician, or because he has a lot of money, or because he has a lot of power. And you know that some people, they just show you that they're here.
Yeah.
Men, women, they just there. What do you do in that situation? You try anyhow to give feedback, or you go silent? I know the ideal thing. What do you think it happens in real life?
Of course, everyone is silent and agreeing quietly, because when I talk about, we very rarely have rebels that go against system and shouts, and not shouts, but try to prove their point. When I talk about feedback, I talk a lot about psychological safety, and psychological safety is a belief in the team. It's not an individual point or feeling, but it's like a shared belief in the that the environment is safe to fail and safe to be vulnerable. So if you have someone really showing their status and not allowing anyone to question their status by, I don't know, questioning their ideas or telling them, or like giving feedback to them or something, no one will speak up, because it's just not safe and not enabling people to do that. And once again, it's also like we always record actions that are being rewarded or punished. And if we see that there are like some bad consequences, we will never step ahead in a way.
And do you think that companies or teams, they can survive without giving feedback?
They can survive, but they cannot thrive in a way. Especially in these times, like everything is changing so much. Like the products are being launched so fast. We need to, especially if you work in a startup, it's continuous movement. You go with so much energy. Everything is changing. You need to reflect each other. How is it going? Like, what can we do better? It's not only about how you're working, but what we're trying to create here. So I think feedback is fundamental. And also through feedback, we get validation. Am I good enough? So we need to have this as well, a validation. Am I still belonging to the group? So that's why feedback gives us not only areas to grow, like pointing us what we could do differently, but it also helps us to reflect, am I doing good? Am I enough? Do I still belong? And I bring value to the tribe. So it is really needed, I think. So yeah, it can survive. Many probably do, but teams with a good feedback culture, they thrive, and people are also have this beautiful energy to create, and they understand that through feedback we grow and we move together, and it's completely different energy. Yeah.
What do you do when there's in different teams, there's these little silos that there's like 2 people here, 2 people there, and we're humans, we're not perfect, and there's a lot of gossips or things that they're happening on the backstage.
Mm-hmm.
How can we fix something like that in real cases?
Mm-hmm. Addressing this. So, for example, if we talk about even the feedback culture, so very important is to talk about it overall, what kind of culture we want to have in a team. This is where you can actually say we don't want to have a culture of gossip. The other thing you could actually brings little tips and tricks in that way, when a very, very good tool that I was not but technique I was doing as well, when people were coming to me and starting to say something about my colleague when I was still working in a startup, I was like, okay, I hear you, I feel that you are frustrated, but what did they say when you told them this? And they're like, oh, I haven't talked to them. It's like, okay, so I can hear you, but I'm not the person who should be listening to this. So instead of being mixing this political pot with having an ear for a gossip or whatnot, try to remove yourself from this and remind people that they should go and embrace the conversations with the person they need to have this. So I think it's a good technique to give them back a reflection of actually you're not talking to the right person.
Good. And that person says, okay, I will do that. How? That person goes to the other person, and how the conversation starts? Or how it should be like a healthy way of saying let's have a coffee. And then?
Yeah. Just use the techniques, you can have just say give a heads up of what the conversation is going to be about. It's going to be I was saying, oh, Chris, I have some feedback about our podcast. Would you like to hear that? That could be my intro. So your also brain knows that feedback is coming, because brain hates unknown or uncertainty. So the more context we can give, the more it feels that it has a little bit of control of what you might be talking about, and it creates safety. So giving this heads up, and then afterwards going and saying thinking about what exactly happened in this situation, thinking about what was the impact on, or maybe on a project or on the health, or what happened there, and then just asking so how do you see it? Because we always feel that we are the heroes of the stories and the other person is the villain. So I would also encourage people to first try to leave assumptions at the back of the doors, behind the door, sorry, and really go there thinking that I might not know everything, and probably you don't know everything, and just sometimes you can see like just asking how have you been lately, can you explain everything what happened, but like you have a feedback conversation and you feel frustrated, and just by asking someone just as the first question, how have you been lately, you can discover why this person may acted this way. Maybe the person was late the whole week into the meetings because they have a problem with the kindergarten and they needed to stop their children, and unfortunately their partner could not help them out there. So I think sometimes we forget to ask questions and we operate from, I know what happened and I need to share this, from assumption that I know it all.
So for what you said, first is to do a framework.
Yeah.
To explain what you want to talk about.
Yeah.
Then is to ask the other person how's it going, what happened, how do you feel, and then just give your perspective, and then you ask the other person to give hers.
No, it's just like almost like this. It depends because it's very conversational. I like to make it conversational. So for me, sometimes I come there and I start with a question. You can start from the question, how have you been? And say like, oh yeah, let's continue talking about the purpose of this, not purpose, but what I wanted to actually talk about during this conversation. Sometimes you actually say, okay, let's talk straight away. And you say like, okay, this happened. I noticed you have been late. Every morning stood up. This week, every morning stood up, you were late, and it delays the, like, you are not hearing the whole picture, or it delays the whole call and stuff like this. And what is happening? So just opening this up. So really thinking about being specific of what happened, and this is all feedback structures are being based on. Talk about the actions, be about impact. Why does it matter? And then like either make suggestion or give a question and stuff like this. This is important, but it's fundamentals.
And this from your feedback expert perspective, or as an advisor or a mentor inside the companies. But when two employees they get together and they need to talk about something that is happening, or working, or a personal level, how can we improve as a team, saying how we feel without the other person to feel attacked?
So there are two stories here. One is on feedback giver and another one is feedback receiver. And I always try to remind people that leave other people feelings to them to deal with. Aim for the best possible feedback, like, or not like aim to give your feedback in a correct way with the good intentions, without blame, like you did this or stuff like this, but really with curiosity of what happened there, and also with your own observation. So that's your part. So your part is to make feedback good and high quality. Then when we talk about how I don't want to make them feel bad, but it's the other person feeling. The other person feelings is them to feel, right? That's why when I do training, I also talk about the receiving part of feedback and how to maybe self-regulate, or not to take feedback as your own identity. I always try to I always remind people, that we are not our feedback. So many people attached it to our identity as fundamental. This is how I am right now. But we are always changing. And probably who you have been last year is completely different, quite a different person than you are right now. You have your own new insights, or new ways of working, or personal growth. So we're always changing. So that's why we shall not take feedback as something that defines us fundamentally, and especially not our worth.
And how do you give, I don't know if the word is feedback, but we make mistakes, and how do apologize ourselves in a proper way, in a group dynamic? Because also it's not easy for people to admit that they made a mistake. How it should be that process, or how to apologize. Because normally we're or maybe ashamed, or we're afraid to have that conversation. How can we hold that space?
So this is actually linking back to what I said also in and I think a few minutes ago, that I talk a lot about psychological safety. If you have the psychological safety, saying I'm sorry, it should not be a hard thing to do. So we aim to create this psychological safety, once again, a place, a shared belief that this environment or this team has you can you can fail without consequences, and you can ask for help and support. So when you have this, people are like, okay, you can say like, you know what, I messed up. This is a huge failure from what I did right now. And then the team says, okay, but what we are learning from this right now, so we're not repeating the same thing. And not you, you messed up, but okay, understood. Like, what are we learning from this? So we are not creating the same mistake anymore, or like not taking this again. So this is, I think, the most ultimate thing, because if you are feeling very threatened or unsafe to say, I messed up, I would probably go back and look into the environment you're in. Yeah, because it should not feel threatening. It may be uncomfortable because we all want to be performed great, but should not feel like, oh my gosh, now I'm actually in danger, or this feels like a threat for my...
And what is the point that when you're in certain environments and you start feeling these things, what is the limit when you say until here and then you have to leave the organization?
It's individual. It's really individual.
What are the boundaries that there should not be?
My boundaries would be very different from someone else's boundaries. Some people, I know, some people can go to the boundaries where someone is really like, I know, humiliated or shout at, for example. Some people are okay with being shouted at. Not me, that's for sure. And some people, the boundaries, like when you have team leader who is micromanaging you all the time, then it could be like, or disrespectful communication. So it's very individual. It's just like looking into what are your boundaries, because there are no one standard boundaries, and I don't want to also imply, so everyone should feel when their boundaries are crossed and they're feeling or anxious or angry because of resentment or disappointed. So everyone has their own compass inside of it. But of course, I'm not talking about like generic things as like bullying, or I don't know, some or completely, I hope, outdated, I don't know, misogyny and stuff like this, when it's just a toxic environment that you need to leave. Yeah. So I would invite everyone just to think about what would be their own boundaries, that they would say like, okay, I put the dot here and I'm never coming back.
Did you ever have any of those situations?
Personally, no. I think for me, I had a good working environments. Working environments, yeah, and it just was like sometimes value clash. I had an environment, but then I also left because I felt I don't.
You make the decision of leaving the organization.
But yeah, the rest I had the good people to work with.
And in that situation, did you also give feedback? It's like, I'm leaving because of this and that?
Yeah, I gave the feedback. I was very honest. I had a great leader who was really, he was a great leader actually. And he was just like wanted for me to reconsider. And I was like, I just gave my feedback and he completely understood as well. And yeah, he's a great person.
Nice. We're almost on time. Last one. If the Kristina from when all this journey started, if you have her here in front of you, what would you tell her? What kind of advice will give her to do and not to do?
From journey that I'm building right now, or because I had so many journeys, not the business, but like just enjoying life. Uh, I think I'm on a good path where I'm right now. It's just give myself a bit more, maybe. Okay, I haven't. I'm not. I was not prepared for this, and I cannot think about this at the surface level. But I think be more proud of myself, and also understand that everything takes time. So yeah, I think this one. It's a far. I have. I'm creating something that I really believe in. I have a great support system, and I had beautiful people who are curious to learn more, and as yourself inviting me to come. So I think I'm onto something very lovely, and I really enjoy the ride.
You are. Kristina, thank you so much for being here with us. For all of you here from Lounge Lab Studios, from the heart of Berlin, I'm Chris Burstein. See you next time. Most content creators hide the mess. We are not. We're real, we're transparent, and we are free. In order to keep on doing this, please subscribe, follow. It's nothing for you, just one click, and it really helps us.